Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the art world today, specifically the work of Bob Camblin. He was a big name in the 70s Houston art scene, and he was known for kind of a playful approach to art and for hiding secret meanings in his pieces.
Super intriguing, right?
Yeah. His work can feel like a puzzle box sometimes, especially this painting we'll be focusing on today, Gone Fishing.
Okay, and we've got a few sources to guide us. We've got a Wikipedia article on Camblin's life, a YouTube video that breaks down the symbolism of gone fishing, and an art analysis essay. I'm really excited to uncover all the hidden details and metaphorical depths. You know me.
I think what makes this deep dive so exciting is that Camblin's work isn't just visually interesting. It really does make you think.
Totally. Okay, so the Wikipedia article mentions that Camblin came from a pretty artistic family. His parents, Don and Viva, were both artists themselves. And get this, Bob was the art director for his high school yearbook. Talk about dedication to art from a young age. Oh yeah, definitely planted some seeds early on. Just imagine growing up surrounded by art, watching your parents create. It must have shaped his whole worldview, don't you think?
For sure. It makes you wonder how much of a Gone Fishing might be a reflection of his own family or the artistic traditions that he kind of inherited.
Totally.
The article also mentions that he studied at the Kansas City Art Institute and then later received a Fulbright fellowship to study art in Italy. Those are some pretty huge accomplishments.
Yeah.
What do you think those experiences, especially Italy, how do you think that might have influenced Gone Fishing?
Well, Italy must have been a turning point for him. I mean, he was exposed to centuries of art history, to masters like Michelangelo and Da Vinci. And the Italian Renaissance was really all about humanism, exploring the individual's place in the world. It makes you wonder, why Camblin chose to incorporate self-portraits into Gone Fishing. It could be his way of connecting his personal journey to those bigger, artistic and philosophical traditions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, so the article highlights this unique style Camlin developed called mouches avantes. Now, I have to admit, when I first saw that term, I was like, is that some kind of fancy French pastry?
Yeah.
But no, apparently it refers to those tiny specks or strands that we sometimes see floating in our vision.
Oh, you mean like those floaters you sometimes see?
Yeah, exactly. And Camblin actually turned that visual phenomenon into an artistic technique. He uses abstract brushstrokes and plays with optical illusions to recreate that effect on the canvas. Like he's saying, look closer, there's more here than meets the eye.
That's so clever. He's making the viewer actively participate in the art, right? And we
Yeah.
have to engage with it, look deeper to really understand the meaning.
It's almost like he's preparing us for all the hidden details and symbolism we're about to discover in Gone Fishing.
Exactly. It reminds me of artists like M.C. Escher, who was like the master of playing with perception. Camblin was definitely playing with our expectations, challenging us to question what we see and how we see it.
So true. Okay, let's get to the painting itself. Gone Fishing. The essay describes it as having warm browns, oranges, and deep blacks with this kind of textured surface, and it features a lot of vertical strokes. There are also these floating white specks, almost like bubbles, and then, of course, there's the bass fish.
It's so interesting that he chose the title Gone Fishing.
Mm.
I mean, you'd expect a simple scene, right? Peaceful, tranquil. But knowing Camblin, there has to be something more to it than that. It's like he's luring us in with his straightforward title and then revealing this whole world of complexity.
Right, like the saying, still waters run deep. And speaking of things hiding beneath the surface,
Hmm.
you're not going to believe this. Both the YouTube video and the essay mention that Camblin actually embedded self-portraits within the painting.
Yeah, multiple self-portraits, actually. They're hidden among all the colors and textures.
What?
Oh,
That's crazy. So he's observing the scene right alongside us. It adds a whole other layer of introspection. I don't know. What do you make of that?
well, it makes me think about the title Gone Fishing in a whole new way. Maybe it's not just about, fishing for an actual fish. Maybe it's about searching for something within himself.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, the YouTube video actually connects this to Zen philosophy,
Yeah.
suggesting that fishing is like a metaphor for seeking enlightenment or self-discovery.
So the base, with its big watchful eye, could represent those unknown depths that he's exploring. And the hidden self-portraits represent Camblin, the seeker, on this journey. I love that.
Yeah. But the fact that those self-portraits are hidden makes you wonder, is self-discovery a straightforward process?
Yeah.
Or is he suggesting that it's more of a struggle,
Mm.
constantly uncovering new parts of ourselves?
That's a really interesting question. And it makes those swirling colors, the way he uses them, seem even more significant. It's like he's depicting the turmoil, the complexity of that inner journey. What jumps out at you? Like, if you were standing in front of this painting right now, what would be your first impression?
I think what strikes me is the contrast between the stillness of the fish and those dynamic, almost chaotic brushstrokes.
Hmm.
It's like he's capturing a moment of contemplation, but with this underlying energy, you know, like something's churning beneath the surface.
Oh, I see that too. It makes me even more curious to unpack all the symbolism. What's the deal with those vertical lines? They seem to almost trap the fish. And those floating white specks, what are those all about?
Well, according to the sources, those vertical lines could represent the challenges or limitations that we face when searching for meaning.
Hmm.
And those white specks, they might be more than just bubbles. They could be connected to his Musha Volante style.
Wait, so he's tying those visual illusions, those fleeting specks in our vision, to the painting's deeper meaning. Wow.
Exactly. It's like he's reminding us that what we see isn't always the whole picture. There's always more beneath the surface, both in the painting and in ourselves.
Whoa. Okay, my mind is officially blown. We've barely scratched the surface and I'm already hooked. I can't wait to dive even deeper into the symbolism and see what other secrets Gone Fishing is hiding. Okay, so we've established that Gone Fishing isn't your typical fishing scene. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface, and we can't resist digging into some symbolism. What can you tell us about Camblin's use of symbols? Like, how do they contribute to the painting's meaning?
Well, symbolism was a big part of art movements that were really influential during Camblin's time. You've got symbolism itself, where artists like Odilon Redden used all this dreamlike imagery to kind of evoke like emotions and ideas. And then you've got surrealism,
Hmm.
that Dali's melting clocks. Surrealism explored the subconscious mind. Camblin seems to be drawing from both of these movements.
That's interesting, but he's not just copying them, right? It feels like he's blending them in a way that feels fresh and new. I'm especially interested in those vertical lines. They're so simple, but they create this tension, this sense of confinement. What do you make of them?
Hmm, those vertical lines. Well, they could represent a lot of things. On the one hand, they could be like a nod to abstract expressionism, a movement that was really popular in America, during Camblin's early years. Abstract expressionists like Franz Klein, they used bold gestural lines to convey emotion and energy. But in Gone Fishing, those lines, they also feel a bit like bars, like a cage.
Yeah.
It makes you think, is Camblin commenting on the limitations we put on ourselves? The ways we trap ourselves with our own fears and doubts?
I see that. It's like the fish, which we said could represent our true selves, is trying to break free from those constraints. But what about the fish itself? We talked about it representing the unknown. But what kind of unknown do you think Camblin might be grappling with?
Well, if you consider his background, it could be the unknown territory of the art world itself. Imagine navigating that competitive Houston art scene, trying to make a name for yourself, facing all the rejection and criticism. The fish could symbolize his fears and aspirations as an artist, like the uncertainty of whether he would succeed or sink.
That's a really interesting point. It makes you realize that even artists who achieve success, like Camblin did, they still have those struggles, those moments of self-doubt. It adds another layer to the painting, doesn't it? Reminding us that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
Exactly. And that brings us back to those hidden self-portraits.
Hmm.
He's not just presenting this struggle as something outside of himself. He's right there in the middle of it, observing, experiencing, maybe even guiding us through it.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, look, I'm going through this too. Let's explore this together. It creates this connection, this shared humanity.
Absolutely. And speaking of connection, the YouTube video talks about this interesting concept related to hexagrams. It brings up hexagram 29 from the I Ching, the abysmal water. Are you familiar with that one?
I've heard of the I Ching, that ancient Chinese text of divination, but I'm not familiar with that specific hexagram. What does it mean?
Well, the abysmal water, it represents facing our fears, navigating those difficult emotions, and learning to kind of move through those depths with like clarity and courage. The video suggests that maybe Camblin's using the water and the submerged fish to kind of evoke these ideas.
So it's not just about facing any unknown, it's about those deep-seated fears and anxieties that we try to avoid.
Right. And the hexagram, it warns against struggling blindly. Instead, it urges us to learn those patterns of the water,
Hmm.
to flow with the current instead of fighting against it, just like a skilled fisherman who understands the rhythms of the water.
So instead of trying to force our way through, we need to surrender to the process, trust that will emerge on the other side.
Exactly. And that ties in with the idea of letting go in the creative process, too. The video talks about how Camblin was really known for his intuitive approach to painting. He wasn't afraid to experiment, to let his subconscious kind of guide him.
That's interesting. It's like he's saying, don't overthink it, just trust the process. And maybe that's a lesson we can all apply, whether we're artists or not.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best way to find what you're looking for is to let go of that need to control everything, to surrender to the flow.
That's such a powerful idea. And it makes gone fishing even more profound. It's not just about fishing, it's a meditation on the creative process, on facing our fears and learning to trust the journey.
It's about embracing that mystery, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
Now, I know we've been doing a lot of talking, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. What about you, our listener? What are your thoughts on all this?
We'd love to hear your take on gone fishing. What resonates with you? What questions are you left with? Share your thoughts in the comments or join the conversation on social media.
We believe that art is best enjoyed when it's shared and discussed, so let's keep this deep dive going. We've been unpacking so much about gone fishing, and it's crazy how this one painting can spark so many different interpretations. It's like Camblin left us with this puzzle box, and we're all just trying to figure out how the pieces fit together.
Yeah, and what's so cool about it is that it doesn't give you those easy answers. You have to engage with it, look for those connections, and that makes it really rewarding to explore.
For sure. I'm still stuck on those vertical lines, the ones that seem to box in the fish. We've been talking about how they could represent the limits we put on ourselves, but the YouTube video brought up another possibility.
Right, they pointed out that Camblin was working during a time of huge social and political change. The Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam War, Watergate. I mean, these events were really shaking up American society.
So those lines could represent bigger things too, like societal structures that might feel confining or even oppressive.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. Like maybe Camblin is using the fish to show us how we have to navigate these complicated and difficult systems.
It goes back to that idea of being the hunter or the hunted, right?
Yeah.
Are we trying to break free from those systems, or are we caught in them without even realizing it?
It's a big question. And it makes you think about what art is supposed to do. Can it just show us the world, or can it challenge us to think differently?
I think gone fishing does both. It shows us what Camblin was going through, but it also makes us look closer and ask ourselves some tough questions, like, are we part of the problem?
And that's where those hidden self-portraits come in, right?
Hmm.
By putting himself in the painting, Camblin isn't just watching these systems. He's acknowledging that he's part of them.
It's like he's saying, hey, this is on me too, let's figure this out. And that feels really relevant today with everything going on.
Definitely. And it reminds us that art can make people think about important issues, start conversations and make a difference.
Absolutely. Gone fishing is more than just a painting. It's a call to action. It's telling us to dig deeper, to be honest with ourselves, and to think about how we can make the world better.
And I think that idea resonates with everyone, no matter who they are or what they believe. We all want to find meaning and connection, especially when things feel so divided.
It's been amazing exploring Gone Fishing with you. This painting really shows the power of art. It challenges us, inspires us, and brings us together.
And we hope this deep dive has inspired you to look at art in a new way, to see all those layers and appreciate how it can make our lives richer.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.